Agnes, good morning. So I'm going to share my screen and my presentation. Let's see, share the screen now. Here we go. Can anyone hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you fine.
Okay. So very similarly to a discussion we had yesterday, I think in the same way that, everything that we've put in place, all the tools, all the strategies, not only is it good for our Innovation Entrepreneurship Center, I also run a Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center for the University of Cal Poly, located in San Luis Obispo, California. So we're in Central California, midway between Los Angeles and San Francisco. But the tools and strategies that support our center are also the tools and strategies that support the the entrepreneurship hub, the ecosystem, and those are items we talked about yesterday. So I'm really going to just reiterate on those items, because whatever we're doing at the center level has that bigger impact and has those outcomes at the regional level. So our best practices is, and one big strategy that I focused on tremendously when I first came on board 8 years ago. There are no angel groups. There's no venture firms here where we are. We're, in Central California. We're not in Palo Alto. We're not in Silicon Valley. So it became very obvious that it was very crucial to be able to help provide access to capital to our startups. That would have to be the #1 priority. If we can't provide access to capital, then all the work that we're doing doesn't have much purpose or much sense, because these startups will not be able to scale. So that was very crucial for us for our region. And of course, every region is different. In some areas, access to capital is much less of an issue. #2 is you want to make sure that your teams are strong, that your teams are going to thrive, your startup teams, to be able to thrive. Often they're very young, they're very green, they don't have a lot of experience, so they need a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring. So I'll explain the different strategies that we've put in place to support that. You want to create a hub, the hosting, the space. So right now everything is virtual, but when you have a hub in place, that's when the magic happens. That's when people meet each other, they connect. We've had startups merge together. We've had co-founders find their missing co-founder that they needed, the tech guy that they needed on the team, just because we're able to create this hub where people meet, congregate, share resources and ideas. Of course, tools, lots and lots of training. And to support that training, we have a lot of software that we use, that we implement, and I will touch on that. Ties with higher education. So we are part of a university, but our incubator is open to startups from anywhere. But having that connection with the university, and we all know that. I think a lot of us are very connected with our local universities when we set up these incubators. But there's so many resources there, not only just talent, but also access to labs, access to support for grant funding. All these other opportunities are there. And networking, lots and lots of networking. That's how we make things happen. So moving right along, access to capital, the one thing that we did that was a little different, I talked about this quite a bit yesterday, but we do an angel conference every year. So that's one of our key strategies, very, very important for us, is we train investors every year. We train a group of 25 to 30 investors who have never invested in startups before, who are interested. We train them and we teach them how to invest in startups. So we go through very detailed content. We introduce them to angel partners who come in as keynote speakers to talk about their successes and the companies that they've invested in and why they, successes, failures. We talk about deal terms, about due diligence, about how to pick the right startup to invest in, how to analyze financials, how to look at metrics. So we do all that training, and then we do one investment as a group into one startup, a real investment into a real startup, as an example of part of this training. So this is a very important program for us. We have some seasoned investors that are part of the group too, but they love it because they keep learning and it helps them better define their strategy on how they want to invest in startups. So that's the key strategy for us. The more educated our investors are, the more understanding they have on how to make the right selections. It helps everyone. If we can weed out the startups that aren't going to go anywhere early on, and these investors can help select the winning, the startups that have a better likelihood of winning, of scaling and growing, the better off we all are. Other resources that we provide, these are tools in a way, is other pathways for access to capital. Supporting our startups for crowdfunding campaigns. I mentioned grant fundings, strong relationships with banks, other opportunities there. The coaching and the mentoring. So one thing that we impose on our startups on day one is you have to set up an advisory board. Again, these founders are often young, they lack experience, they lack expertise. So yes, they have the drive, they execute, they have the passion, but that's not enough. Like you need that brain power to help them build the right strategies to move forward with their startups. And that happens with the advisory board. We ask them to meet with their advisory board every month, and we help them pick advisors to put on their board. I do a deep dive with every startup that we work with once a month. It's a 30-minute deep dive. I have them fill out a Google form. So I use a Google form, specific questions. And the minute we start the meeting, we go through, I've already reviewed the form, I know where they're at, and I just address the gaps. What are the gaps? What are the problems? Let's just talk about that. What do you need? Let's make the right connections to help you move forward. Open office hours, lots and lots of experts come and host office hours. They're just donating their time. They're complete experts in their field. And our startups can book time with them to get some expert advice on a very, very specific issue. It's free to them. And the people who facilitate open office hours are just completely donating their time to support what we're doing. And we have a business development center that through which we have another 35 expert consultants that will meet with our startups one-on-one to help them navigate issues as well, be it digital marketing strategy, building your sales pipeline. It could be electrical engineering issue, prototyping, mechanical engineering. Like we have experts in every single field. So that's the coaching, mentoring piece. Hosting, talked about that, having a space to get together and to exchange, build relationships. We do have exchange programs with with various incubators throughout Europe. We've signed memorandums of understanding with incubators overseas so that we are prepared to host one of their startups. They can come stay with us for 3 months and vice versa. So that's been a good strategy for us to help expose our startups to European markets for those that need it. Training, lots and lots and lots and lots of training. We do events all year round. When the startups are in our program for 2 years, it's super intense. But by the time they're done with those 2 years, I would say 8 out of 10, they're sustainable. They've gotten funded. They're starting to hire. They've launched their product or service. They're generating revenue. I see those 2 years as, that's the make or break time, super sensitive time in the life of a startup. Most fail during that time. If we've picked the right ones up front and we give them this acceleration of support and resources during those 2 years, they're in a pretty solid space when they graduate. So again, examples of workshops, digital marketing, and basic things like QuickBooks. Have you set up your QuickBooks? What does it look like? Most times it's a complete mess, but let's clean that up. And very practical things like how do you use Google AdWords? Does it make sense? How do you track results? So we do a lot of workshops and training on that. Business planning. So here's some tools that we use. We use LivePlan. It's a great software for business planning. It's based on the cloud, so any consultant can jump in, look at the plan, see where the company is at, and then debrief with the company. Another tool I started another piece of software we've implemented in the last 6 months is called Demand Metric. We just signed a contract with our company, and that's to help our companies develop their sales and marketing plan. It's a super, super great platform, very efficient, really helps outline the go-to-market strategy, which is where our founders are often very weak. Most startups don't have a very good go-to-market strategy, and that's a big turnoff for investors. If investors can't figure that out, then they know that the startup will likely fail. Ties with higher education, access to faculty, their expertise and deep knowledge, students, talent, campus resources, talked about that. Lots of networking, forums, coffee and conversation, VIP events, anything we can do to help connect our founders to a good network of people. Oops, sorry about that. And I think that was it anyway. That was my last slide. So I'll stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Judy. Great set of tools and strategies for entrepreneurship and innovation. And we were asked by Dr. Hanadi to consider how these, I mean, what are our best advice for using our different tools when we're working with developing and developed countries in unison. Do you have any of our panelists wanting to elaborate on that?
Well, I can go for sure. We work in many developing countries, at least between 5 and 10 African countries. We work in Asia and also in South America, if they are still